everyone, welcome to Energy in Transition, the first in a weekly series of virtual fireside chats, where we'll be speaking with key movers and shakers in the clean energy sector to get their expert views on the future of the industry, how we're going to get to net zero, and how things are being affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Levent Gurdenli, and I'm a renewable energy and sustainability lawyer at the leading national law firm, Waitmans. We are passionate about tackling climate change, achieving net zero, and facilitating the transition to a cleaner, smarter, and more flexible energy system. Our energy team are sector experts, and we have extensive experience advising across the life cycle of all types of clean energy projects. So each week, we're going to be tackling a different topic. And today, we're going to be discussing corporate PPAs and also some subsidy-free generation. And I'm delighted to be joined by Juan Pablo Cerda, the founder and CEO of Zeigo. JP has a trading and operations background across several commodities and recently founded and exited a business in the renewable energy industry. He subsequently founded Zeigo about 18 months ago, which is an innovative and disruptive startup that wants to digitize the way that organizations can access renewable energy. So, JP, thank you so very much for joining us today. Just before we start, could you introduce yourself and Zeigo in a little bit more detail, please?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you very much, Lev, for these amazing fireside chat. So yes, my name is Juan Pablo, but everyone calls me JP. I am the CEO and founder at Zeigo, and Zeigo is a technology platform. We use smart technology, AI, and various different algorithms to facilitate the contractual process of finding and contracting that renewable energy directly from generators. So essentially, we help the corporate world to find and contract energy directly from wind and solar farms.
Brilliant. And obviously, it's a really, really topical, big growth area. How's your business developed in the last kind of 12 months? And can you let us know about any kind of recent achievements or big developments that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, the platform has been going for about 18 months. Since then, it has been, absolutely crazy. The whole idea of the platform was to try and digitize the way that companies buy renewable energy. And the reason we're doing this, or the main reason we're doing this, is because, we didn't consider fair the fact that just the big guys like Google and Amazon had access to PPAs and renewable energy directly from generation. So we are very strongly focused on democratizing the way that smaller companies can access renewable energy the same way. So the first one is building the platform. That's since then we've had some evolution in the products that we've designed, and it's been absolutely crazy. Second one is how quickly the platform has grown across Europe. Yep. So for example, last month we've added about 4 gigawatts of capacity from developers. So yep. To explain a little bit more, we have supply and demand in the same place. So on one side we have the developers who post the projects, and we help the developers kind of chop those projects down into smaller contracts so they can be more accessible to corporates. On the other side, we have corporates basically interested in greenifying their grid and finding renewable energy contracts. The third thing is, since then we've been working with great clients, big airports and different very large clients around the world. And we've been publishing reports with companies like Bloomberg and S&P Platts, and onboarded some of the largest developers in the world.
Brilliant, that's amazing. And look, we're at a time where there are historically low power prices at the moment. Likewise with oil prices, with obviously the COVID-19 pandemic, there's a chunk of demand removed from the market. It's a bit volatile. Are there any challenges you see in the market at the moment, and what is the market facing in the corporate PPA world?
That's a really good question. So yeah, it definitely is facing strong uncertainty. So basically, demand and prices across the other commodities are very volatile at the moment. But that also creates opportunities. So we're strong believers that, for every problem, there's an opportunity on the other side. So yeah, this is creating opportunities for the corporate sector.
Okay, and so actually, despite this volatility, you see some opportunities for growth during this time, or expansion. Do you think, in light of the current climate, anything in terms of PPA structures might have to change in the short or the near term to get deals done? If so, any idea how that might happen? And I guess, where do you see Zeigo's role within these opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. So volatility and uncertainty always historically have always created windows of opportunity. So, for example, there needs to be more options for the corporates. So recently we ran a tender for one large network operator in the UK. Yeah. And literally finished it about probably 6 days ago. Okay. And we saw high levels of flexibility and some of the lowest prices we've ever seen in the market came back. So we had about 30 renewable energy projects coming back for that specific tender. All of the UK, all amazing projects, some of them virtual, some of them operational, some of them pipeline. So it's our role to increase that flexibility and offer different options via the platform. So the aggregation, like, for example, the aggregation, near-term, long-term PPAs, that kind of stuff.
So you're seeing, I was going to say, so instead of having, I don't know, like the traditional 15-year type corporate PPA, were you seeing people willing to offer like different shorter terms, for example?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've also heard maybe people saying that, well, maybe there'd have to be much more flexibility in kind of gain share, pain share mechanisms in the future to reflect the fact that nobody knows quite which way prices are going to go. Is that the sort of thing that you're seeing that in practice with these new tender or recently closed tenders?
Yeah, sure. So we've seen something like 7 years offered for potentially new projects as well. So some operational, some new. So yeah, I think the supply side, the developers are very keen to keep the momentum going that they had a couple of months ago, and actually shift those projects and build more, and that's what we need right now.
Absolutely. And any feelings as to the level of activity in the next kind of month or two? Do you think you're going to see similar tenders, or might there be a pause being pressed on things until, well, I don't know exactly when, but in the short term?
I don't think no one knows exactly when.
Exactly.
Actually, a little bit of both. So some companies are carrying on business as usual, and understanding that there's a little bit of an opportunity right now, whilst others are pausing anything not essential or urgent until further notice, basically.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I guess there are certain sectors which will obviously be immune to this kind of thing. In the tech sector, for example, that's obviously going to continue going because we're using our computers more than ever. Whereas I guess in other sectors where activity has ceased for a while, the demand's obviously not there so much. So maybe they're, as you say, taking a bit more time and assessing things. Okay, I mean, correct. Just moving away from I guess COVID-19 specific stuff for the moment. Although it's all encompassing. Before it all kind of happened, Were you seeing, and you alluded to some already, I think, but any particular trends in the PPA market at the moment, whether that's, new geographies, new players in the markets, new PPA structures, anything that you'd kind of be able to share with us?
Yeah, basically all of the above. So yeah, before the situation, more and more companies were or are actually in fact still setting internal and external targets, to become greener. But actually, in order to achieve that, they need to feel a lot more confident and educated about PPAs.
Yeah.
So even before this pandemic, there was a kind of need for understand a little bit further the PPAs and what was their impact, what were the risks, and becoming aware of the different pricing structures, prices, levels, flexibility, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fundamentally how what needs to happen. So basically, PPAs need to fundamentally evolve. So they need to become simpler and more efficient and a lot more digestible by different sectors of the corporate world, so they can be integrated into the day-to-day strategy. Okay. But that's our job basically.
And do you think we'll get to a world where the SMEs of this world, as opposed to Google's and Amazon's, will be able to enter the market? And kind of, if so, when do you think that might start happening, and how, I guess?
Yeah, so that definitely is something that needs to happen. So basically, companies need to understand that there's definitely different shades of green, and if you want to contribute to tackling climate change or any other greenifying structure within your corporation, you need to understand that contracting energy directly from generation is the most impactful way, because you're not only buying the cleanest energy, but you're also supporting the supply side to build more wind and solar farms.
Yeah.
And ditch replace green electrons in the grid. So yeah, it's very important. But before that point happens, even before we consider that, there's a lot that needs to be happening behind the scenes in terms of simplifying the contractual structure, which we're trying to do. Chopping down the big projects into smaller pieces, which we're trying to do as well. Yeah. And finding a very easy way to see how a PPA reflects in your overall strategy and your overall portfolio, and what impact that can have.
And so just for people listening, when we say chopping down the big projects, I think what you're saying is, instead of historically, someone like a Google or an Amazon saying, right, I'm going to buy the entire output of this wind farm here because I need it, and I actually probably need more power than that. You're saying actually, company X or company Y, you could buy 10% of that output or 15% of that output,
correct,
whatever their requirements are, and your platform is trying to facilitate that process, and so therefore multiple entities will be buying power from the same, potentially from the same project.
Correct.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think that's really important. And you talk about simplifying the process and almost, I guess you talk about standardization in lots of ways, aren't you, as well, and getting to the point where there are more, I hate to use the word standard, but yeah, standard kind of PPA type documents, legal agreements as well, I guess you're talking about there. But I guess on the counterpoint, do you think there's also potentially more value to be extracted from much more bespoke corporate PPA negotiations, where you really are truly able to reflect what your demand profiles are, and really kind of negotiate what you need to?
Yeah, I'm sure, but that can be standardized with using technology as well. So, okay, for example, what we're trying to do is, or what we're actually doing is using AI to profile corporates, and understand every single aspect of how they buy the energy, when they buy the energy, why do they want to buy renewable energy, what are the targets, what are the preferences, is price important, or is it location important, or is it, I don't know, do you have a strong preference on solar or wind or something?
Yeah.
So building that profile and understanding in a very smart way what can be matched, or how we can match you to the perfect project,
Yes,
is crucial, because
of course.
on the other side, we need to understand like the flexibility of the projects and how those projects can be adapted to different off-takers. And I think in the future, that's exactly what we're moving towards, a more dynamic buying of energy based on your exact profile and your exact requirements.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, we do, being all made possible through the use of technology, essentially, and as you say, making much smarter decisions than you're able to necessarily without that. I'd like to just touch upon a report that you recently collaborated on with Bloomberg New Energy Finance on corporate PPAs, the state of the market, and you, or Zeigo, provided the data points for that survey. Could you share with us any of the key findings or anything that potentially surprised you within that report for those that haven't read it?
So one of the key takeaways of that report is that Spain and the Nordics are the cheapest countries in Europe to buy renewable energy from. But that's something we kind of already knew.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about the report is that it's basically understanding the different like purchasing requirements and purchasing options in different European countries.
Sure.
And there's potentially different, understanding the different pricing structures and understanding the different prices and why those prices are like that in every single country is very important. Because we can learn a lot from the Nordics, for example. Although the UK is quite sophisticated and quite advanced in how we buy our energy, there are some aspects that we can learn from how companies buy energy in the Nordics, for example.
I think the UK, was it right, the survey showed that the UK is actually on average the most expensive corporate PPA market across Europe. In terms of, I think it's average prices. I'm sure there's obviously a range.
Average prices.
But yeah. Okay. And I guess then, just lastly on this, then, in terms of the key points of a PPA, as you said, what do you think are the key sticking points or the key elements of a PPA that, for the purposes of kind of negotiating and concluding one, or kind of like the factors that make the most difference to you, or can have the most effect on a potential deal if someone's just thinking about doing one or contemplating entering into one in the future?
I mean, the contractual side, as you know, obviously is it's one of the most important factors. So, essentially, if you take the PPA negotiation and the PPA concept into its bare concept, is you have two parties, one that wants to buy power and another one that wants to sell power. And in between, it's where it gets a little bit complicated. For example, one of the biggest complications that we've seen in the market is term. So a lot of companies don't like getting into 10-year contracts. Others see it as a hedge, which is fine. Other one is price. So basically, there's a lot of uncertainty about price and what price is going to do. Am I being very smart entering a 10-year contract and fixing 20% of my volume for this amount, or am I being silly? If you look at the forward energy curves and the forward energy scenarios out there in the market, they all vary significantly. So again, that provides a certain level of uncertainty to corporates. So probably like having too much information is not great, because it makes you confused, and who do you believe, basically. So we're again trying to solve that issue by providing a more dynamic approach to the forward energy scenarios available in the market. But yeah, that price, tenure and size also, and the tendering process is also quite historically challenging.
Okay, so those are those would be your key messages really to anyone thinking about this. Think about those key elements, where you can move, where you can't move, and start your negotiations from there, as well as obviously using your platform to make things a bit more flexible.
Correct. And there's two main points that can be negotiated, or two main aspects that can be negotiated, and we have seen high levels of negotiation, and that's price and tenure.
Brilliant, thank you for that. More kind of then generally, three last questions, I guess, on to COVID-19 again, but just more broadly in the industry. Do you see this pandemic as because I personally felt, prior to this, there was a lot of momentum behind kind of net zero, the green economy, sustainability, and it was just, it's just gathering pace worldwide, really. Do you think all of a sudden COVID-19 is a threat to achieving net zero in the future, or just more of a temporary glitch?
I definitely think it's just a temporary glitch. So if you look at the history of pandemics that has hit the world, and if you look at the timeline, if you look at the history and the time that the humans have been on Earth, etc., like being isolated for 3 to 6 months, potentially, or a year, it's really nothing compared to the advance of the development of renewable energy across the world, and everything that has been happening. I think it's definitely a glitch. And if I'm completely honest, I think like a lot of people are becoming more aware of how impactful your contribution can be to the planet, and this has only highlighted the damage that has been done to the planet and how it can be healed, sort of thing. So people are definitely more conscious and appreciative of what we currently have.
I think that's right. And you know what, I think my hope at least is that, assuming we do have some kind of worldwide recession or economic downturn, investment into the green economy and clean energy sector could be a real kind of kickstart that the world needs to actually increase productivity and get it back up to where it needs to be. That's certainly my optimistic view on things anyway.
I mean, now, the sun's still going to be shining, and the wind's still going to be blowing.
Just got to get the money flowing again. So, to end things, we're running short on time, so I'll ask you two final short questions, JP, which I'm going to ask everybody in this series. But can you give me 3 words for you that represent getting to or achieving net zero?
Global climate emergency.
Okay. And on the flip side, 3 words that might stop us from getting to net zero.
Corporate red tape.
Excellent. Brilliant. Listen, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for on today's session. We've heard some really interesting insights here today from JP, including the need to kind of use, I think in particular what I'm taking away from this, the power of technology and AI to really kickstart this very important corporate PPA market, which we really need to ensure that global the renewable energy continues to be built out. There is a massive demand for it. Plenty of us have heard of organisations such as RE100, pledging to procure 100% of their power from renewable sources. The demand from them alone is vast. So we really need to find a way to plug that gap. And platforms like Zeigo, I think, are clearly going to be the way forward to do this, as opposed to the old historic kind of tendering processes, which we all know take time and have been very challenging. So thank you so much, JP, for your input and letting us know about your work and a bit more about Zeigo. If anyone is interested in buying or selling renewable power, then you should be sure to check them out. So go to their website at zeigo.energy. They're on Twitter at Zeigo Energy. They're on Instagram at Zeigo.energy. And you can follow them on LinkedIn as well. This interview will be available to view on our website, waitmans.com. It may well be on Zeigo's website as well as on our social media channels, including LinkedIn and Twitter. So
great.
All that remains to be said is that I hope you, the audience, enjoyed today's interview. We will be back next week with a new guest to get some further expert opinion and insight. So until then, it's goodbye from me, and
thank you very much, Lev. That was great. Thank you, everyone.
Very much. And I hope everyone that you'll join us again soon. Thank you.
Thanks.